I can't picture myself smoking anymore. I'm to that point where I can't physically, and in my head, I will sit and think about it, and I cannot picture myself as a smoker anymore. And that was the big struggle for me for a while. Everybody knows me as a smoker. You know, I was a closet smoker at work, but outside of work, everybody knew I smoked.
Hi everyone, this is Naskia Davos and welcome to this episode of Ask an Ex. Every Ask an Ex episode features an inspiring ex-smoker who succeeded with the CBQ method and who shares their personal experience and unique perspective on quitting smoking. The ex I have with me today joined our CBQ program and quit smoking a pack a day on the January 31st, 2020, and she's here to tell you how she did it. Please welcome Amberly Miller. Hi, Amberly. Thank you so much for being here.
How are you?
I'm great. Huge congratulations on your success.
Thank you.
So, you were smoking a pack a day for how long?
It started out probably 15, 16, the casual smoking, and then it kind of just increased over time, and then next thing you know, you're smoking a pack a day, and then you get on the phone with friends at night after work, and you have a glass of wine, and you're like half a pack in at the evening, and it's like, wow. So probably on a normal day, a pack. So I'd buy a pack, and then the next day I'd have to buy another pack.
Got it. And how did you start smoking?
My mom smoked my whole life, so I think it started there.
And what motivated you to quit smoking?
Having asthma and being a smoker, you don't ever want to put those two together, I don't think. But I didn't want it to cause problems later on in life, it flaring up again. But the biggest thing the reason why I quit, I think the number one reason why I quit was I have two daughters. My oldest just turned 15 and my youngest just turned 10. And they always hounded me about smoking. Like, you know, my 10-year-old, she got to the point where she was like, that's going to cause cancer. You're going to get cancer. You're going to die. And I'm just like, God, you know, you couldn't even go outside to enjoy a cigarette because she's like, you're going to die. You're going to die. I was like, okay. So for my 10-year-old to recognize those things was a big thing for me. And then my mom being in ICU for 2 weeks, not being able to breathe with blood clots in her lungs, I knew that was time.
Yeah.
I think my kids were the reason why I was like, it's time for me to quit, because my kids are begging me to quit.
And how did they feel after you did it?
You know, when I did the 10-day program, my biggest supporter were my husband and my kids. To watch the videos, they would just like leave the room, and they were like so serious about it. So when I finally quit, like I still have it calculating on a calendar on my phone, and I'll be like, I'm at 500 days. Like I just randomly look at it, and they just get so excited.
Oh, and they were an amazing support system even throughout the process.
Oh yeah, because being a female and then trying to quit smoking during a pandemic, and then my mom, and then it was like one thing after another.
Yeah.
So I quit January 31st. My mom went in ICU in February. March, we went on lockdown. I feel like we're still on lockdown, but it's let up a lot. But in March of 2020, we were like on complete lockdown.
Yeah.
I work in the medical field, so I still had to go to work every day, and be exposed to everything.
Oh, wow.
Let's see.
It was
March.
difficult.
It was very difficult. I struggled in March the hardest because it was work and home, and that was it. And it was like you had to find things to do, and you had to interact with family again. And that's weird to say, but like you would just put devices only did so much, and you would sit around and do puzzles and stuff. But trying to quit smoking and be on lockdown was extremely hard. And then
Yeah.
April, my grandmother passed away.
Yeah, I remember.
That's hard.
I remember you had posted a video of her on our Facebook group blowing a birthday candle, and everyone was telling you, oh, she looks so elegant and she looks so pretty. So yeah, I remember that. I'm really sorry.
So I think I look back and I feel like conquering all that during quit smoking, I was like, I can do anything, you know?
Yes.
Because that was a lot. I look back and I'm like, you know, I remember April, my aunts we couldn't go in to see my grandmother because of COVID. So we had to sit outside while she was on life support. And my aunts were smoking, and they were like, just smoke, you know? I was like, no. I was like, you know, I'm like 2 months in. I'm like, yeah, because they didn't realize how serious I was. You know,
Yeah.
you hear somebody say, oh, I quit smoking, you know? But to me, it was like game changer. It was a life decision for me. And I was like, no. And she smoked in the car with me. And, you know, I was like, no, I'm doing this for me. So I got through it.
Yeah, and I think it's incredible that after all this pressure from everywhere and seeing your grandma through the window, basically, that you couldn't be with her, and having people around you smoking and encouraging you to smoke because they didn't know like your intention, that's a lot. So
It is.
You.
It's a lot of pressure.
It's very
a lot of pressure.
inspiring.
And you know, I remember one of your videos. Looking back, you know, you surround yourself. You know, I don't really, to think about it, I don't really know a lot of people that smoke.
Mhm.
I was more of a closet smoker, and it's weird. Like I look back, and people at work when I quit, I was like, "Oh, I quit smoking." They were like, "You smoked?" And I was like, "Yeah, a lot." But I had this routine of I didn't want people to know I smoked at work because I worked in the medical field, and they shame you for that. They're like, "Oh, you need to quit smoking." So I didn't tell people.
Yeah.
But when I quit smoking, I was like, I quit smoking. They're like, I didn't even know you smoked. And I was like, yeah.
And you work in are you a nurse? I don't know if I remember correctly.
No, I'm not a nurse. No.
Okay. In the medical field, there's a lot of guilt as well when we smoke and we work in the medical field, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How did that affect you?
Especially your doctors, you know, you work with doctors, and doctors don't want to hear you smoke because then you get the 3rd degree. Like, you know, you hear it all. You hear it all.
Yeah. And before you quit smoking, what worried you, or what were you afraid of about quitting smoking before you did it?
Smoking was kind of like when you quit smoking, you kind of look back and you see that smoking was like your best friend, like you've talked about. And just like losing that, like I had to, when we went on vacation right afterwards, I was like, how do I picture myself not smoking on vacation? Like picturing myself. And that gave me really bad anxiety. And I think that was the biggest thing for me, was trying to see myself as a non-smoker. I really didn't have any symptoms of like withdrawals and none of that. I think just trying to place myself without smoking was my biggest struggle. It gave me anxiety at times. But I am OCD, and I clean a lot more now.
I can imagine. So how did you get past this struggle of building your life without smoking and seeing yourself without smoking?
How did I build my life? You know, I feel like it's been 5 years in ways, because I look back and I'm like, I can't picture myself smoking anymore. I'm to that point where I can't physically, and in my head, I will sit and think about it, and I cannot picture myself as a smoker anymore.
That's
And
huge.
that was the big struggle for me for a while. I'm like, everybody knows me as a smoker. You know, I was a closet smoker at work, but outside of work, everybody knew I smoked. But I just, it's different.
That's huge. Going from I cannot imagine my life without smoking now to you cannot imagine yourself being a smoker.
Yeah.
Jump. And you were gonna say something?
My biggest thing was, for people that are doing the program is, when you're serious about, making that decision, and you say, take away things, change up things. And my biggest point of when I smoked was I would sit out back and I had my, your patio.
Mm-hmm.
And the day I quit smoking, I totally changed my back porch. I told my husband, I was like, get that out. I don't want that. And he was like, whatever you need. But that memory popped up in my head when I was quit smoking. And I wanted to point that out to you, because to me, that was the biggest thing of changing your mindset and the way you do things. You definitely have to change how a smoker, I don't know if that makes sense to you. Like, if you go outside and you smoke a cigarette and you got your bench out there, like, if you totally change how things look in the back, to me, mentally, that changes everything outside.
Of course, you're absolutely right. Our environment matters a lot. So if you can change the environment that you used to associate with smoking, that's amazing. Yeah. That's very helpful. Of course, you're right. So this helped you.
Oh yeah, it helped
a lot.
It helped a lot.
Like, looking back, going through the program, and whether it was exercises or realizations you had along the way, what do you think helped you the most in leaving smoking behind?
Telling myself every day that I don't want to die. I don't want my death be because of smoking. And I still tell myself every day, even when that thought comes across your head, like, I'm just like, I asked my husband, I don't know, I've asked him several times, and I think I had to know from him. I think 6 months in of not smoking, I struggled for a while, and I think it was due to the pandemic. That was, I think, hard on the world. But when you quit smoking, I think my biggest fear was letting my husband down and my kids. And I had to know in the back of my head, there was something I was holding on to. And I couldn't get past it. I was very irritable at times. And I was like, I can't let it go. I don't know what's bothering me. And so I dug deep, and I had to know from my husband that if I smoked again, would he be okay with that? And it was something that was mental for me. And he was like, well, yeah, I love you. Like, I don't want you to, but if that was your choice. And I was like, I'm not. I just need to know you were okay with that. I didn't want him to ever be mad at me. And when he said that, all that just went away. And honestly, that was the day that I never thought about a cigarette. Like, waking up, I never had those feelings. So that
Do you
could be
know
enough
why?
for somebody.
Do you think you know why this had such a huge impact?
I think I do. I think that relates to my ex-husband for my daughter. When I met him, he didn't want me to smoke. He was like, he forced me to quit smoking, and I smoked behind his back because it wasn't what I wanted. And
Yeah.
he tried to change who I was. And when he would go on deployment and stuff, because he was in the Marine Corps, I would smoke. Like, and so that was always in the back of my head, you know?
Yeah.
And he always told me, he said, if I ever caught you smoking, I would divorce you.
Caught you? What
Yeah.
an
Or if
interesting
I ever
choice
saw you
of
smoke.
words.
Yeah. So it felt like I was a prison, you know? I had to, it was a bad situation.
Yeah.
So when I finally met my person and I quit smoking for me, I think for me, I need to know from him that he would have been okay if I started smoking again. And that kind of just released everything for me.
I love the message that you need to quit smoking first for you and not because someone else wants you to. You also have to want it. And I think it's very interesting that when he showed you that he accepts you and he loves you unconditionally, this sort of released smoking. And this is so important because, you know, when we smoke, we use it to mask and choke down our emotions, and we try to meet our needs in a destructive way by smoking. So in sort of way, he, by giving you this unconditional love, he released the grip of smoking that where you used to go to get sort of meet some needs.
Right.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
And I think it's also very important for people who, you know, maybe feel forced to quit smoking to dig deep like you did and think, I need to do it for me first.
It's hard. It's hard, you know, when you try to quit. When you try to quit for everybody else, it will never work. It will never work because, you know, like my aunt's a smoker, and she'll tell you, I won't quit because I enjoy smoking. I enjoy it. And so nobody will ever tell her she can quit smoking, like she won't quit smoking. But if somebody's like, you have to quit smoking, you'll be miserable. You know, I was miserable that, you know, my ex-husband didn't accept me for who I was. And I felt like I had to hide, and it was a bad situation. So
Yeah.
I can tell you, just be honest. And if somebody forced you to quit smoking, you probably don't need to be with them. But yeah, when he accepted me and he was like, you know, if that's what you want to do, you want to smoke again, I don't want you to, but it won't bother me. I love you. And I was just like, that day, I'll never forget. We were doing a puzzle, and that was it for me.
Wow. Powerful. Very powerful. Yeah. So now, all this time since you quit smoking, how do you reward yourself?
Um, I reward myself to, you know, I don't really reward myself. It's more mental that I reward myself. That I feel like I have my life back. Um, that I don't, I reward myself of the gift that you gave me. You gave me the courage to quit smoking for myself. You helped me with that. I don't really reward myself. I think of, okay, let me reword this. I think I reward myself by thinking long term that I quit now. I'm 33. If I quit now, maybe it won't cause cancer, hopefully. on oxygen, COPD, congestive heart failure. I think of long term. So I think I'm rewarding myself hopefully at the end of my life.
Well said. Well said. Yeah. And how do you, so you said you had no withdrawal at all, like of the symptoms?
No. So I tried to quit. I think it was maybe a week or two before I found your program. I tried to quit on my own, cold turkey. I was like, I can do this. I'm gonna do it. And like you said, it's like 80% mental, and it is. I sat in my bathtub and I just looked at my husband and I was like, I can't do this. I think I was like 12 hours in.
Okay.
And it was mental in my head, but in my head, I was feeling all these, like, my bones were hurting.
Yes.
Like, I was feeling like I had the flu, and I just looked at him. I was like, go get me a pack of cigarettes. And he did. And I went outside and I was like, oh gosh. And everything I felt just disappeared. And I was like, I can't do this on my own. Like, and I don't want a patch. I don't want vape. I don't want a Band-Aid, So when I tried to do it on my own, I felt symptoms. I felt sick. And it was just, I felt like, honestly, I don't know what a heroin addict feels like. And I don't want to ever, kudos to them when they get off of that. But I felt like a drug addict coming off of drugs. But when I found your program, never felt anything. Nothing. The only thing I can say is I had really vivid dreams.
Very normal.
The only thing.
Yeah. Very
but I
normal.
felt great.
That's amazing. And it goes out to show how important our mind is in affecting what our body feels. Like our mind filters our physical experiences.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, sometimes when we're so stressed or we think over and over again something and all the things that could go wrong, we start feeling physically sick because the mind affects the body. And exactly like you said, when your mind is not there, your body is going to start feeling more weird than it has.
Yeah.
That's a great example.
First of all, you have to do it for yourself. You can't do it for your kids, even though if you want to. You can't do it for your spouse, your friends, your family, coworkers. It has to be for yourself or it won't work. You have to be ready, but you also need to look at your life and look when you're older and say, do I want to be on oxygen? Do I want to have COPD? Do I want to have congestive heart failure? Do I want high blood pressure, diabetes? Like, smoking influences all that. And I don't want to do that. And that was the biggest thing for me, to picture my life. I want to be able to run around with my grandkids when I'm older and be that grandparent that can just do those things. And I see that in today, so many people that smoke that are in their 60s, 70s, 80s that can't get around and do things anymore. And that, you got to be motivated. You have to be motivated to quit smoking. So my biggest thing would be to picture your life in 20, 30 years and be able to, say, is this where I want to be? Do I want to be stuck on the couch watching TV with medical problems and on oxygen? If that's not the life that anybody wants. So to quit now, do it for yourself.
Thank you for sharing that. So give your future self a gift.
Yes, it's not now. I mean, quitting smoking. I mean, yeah, I save $5 a day. There's little things. You save $5 a day, or ever how much it costs for your pack of cigarettes, and you're saving. That 10 minutes I'm outside smoking. 10 minutes with my daughter inside. Yeah, you have the little things, but the big reward is the end of your life. You know, you don't want to be on your deathbed on oxygen and you can't breathe. I don't want that. That's my biggest fear, is not being able to breathe. I don't want to do that.
Great. Amberly, thank you so much for taking the time to do this and for sharing your journey and your advice and how and all these tips and how you overcame struggles and giving us an insider's view in your mind while you went through this journey. I love talking to you, and I'm sure your experience will help and inspire many others who are trying to quit smoking right now. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me my life back. I couldn't do it on my own. I couldn't do it on my own. So without you, I would probably still be smoking.
It means a lot. Thank you. But you did it, and you did it with all these challenges as well. So huge congratulations to you.
Thank you.
And if you're all here watching this video, leave a comment below and let Amberly and I know what you're taking away from her journey that can help you in yours. We're looking forward to reading your comments. Thank you again, and have a great day, and I'll see you next time.